Section 1.4 is absolute value equations. The absolute value of -4 is 4, and the absolute value of +4 is also 4. When you have a negative outside the parenthesis, when you have a negative in front of the absolute value sign, you just bring that negative over, and then take the absolute value of -6 is 6. So your final answer is -6. Absolute value of 4 is 4, and the negative you carry over, and you get a -4. Example 1, evaluate. So we're going to plug in -7.5 for n. We do the order of operation, so we're going to treat the absolute value symbols the same way as if it was a grouping symbol. So we're going to work inside the absolute value. Everything else we just keep bringing down. So I multiplied 2 times -7.5 and got -15 plus 5. And bring it 8.4 minus an absolute value -10 is 10. Now we have to make sure you line up your decimals. So you get a -1.6. So wherever we see x, we're going to plug in -2. And again, we're going to treat the absolute value like grouping symbols, so we're going to work inside. And the absolute value of -5 is 5. 5 minus 3.5. Now, we've got to convert this 5 into a fraction. Remember that a fraction, if the numerator and the denominator is the same, it turns into 1. So I'm going to borrow from that 5, making it a 4, and turn a fraction into 2 over 2. And the reason why I got 2 over 2 is because the other denominator is 1/2, so I want to have a common denominator. And I get 1.5. That's 1 1/3 minus the absolute value of 2 times a -2/3. And notice that I put the 2 over 1 because I'm multiplying it times a fraction. So anytime I'm multiplying or dividing by fraction or adding, I'm going to turn that whole number into a fraction by putting it over 1. Once again, I'm going to work inside the absolute values. I'm turning the 1 into 3 over 3 because I want a common denominator. One and 1/3 minus absolute value -1/3 is 1/3. So we get 1. So now, if we're trying to find the absolute value, if x is inside the absolute value, it could be two answers. It could be a positive or a negative. So x could be positive a, or x, the negative x is equal to a, which x is equal to negative a because we divide by negative a. So here's a little formula. When you see the absolute value of x minus c is equal to a, we're going to have two answers. Absolute value always have two answers because remember, it could be inside the absolute value, it could be a positive or it could be a negative. So what we're trying to find what's inside the absolute value. So we take it out of the absolute value. Take what's ever inside the absolute value, take it out, and put it to a positive a or take it out and put it to negative a. So you're going to have two answers that are really interesting. You could say or and. You could have two answers. You are going to have two answers. And then you solve. Example 2. Absolute value of x minus 100 is equal to 20. Take it out of the absolute value. X minus 100 is equal to positive 20. And then we're going to take it out of the absolute value and put it to a negative 20. And we solve. And we're going to get two answers. So the solution is 80 and 120. Also written, you can write it in a solution set. Now let me check. Let me go back and check. Let me show you. If we plugged in 80 right there, we would get absolute value of 80 minus 100. Absolute value of 80 minus 100 is a negative 20. Absolute value of negative 20 is 20. So it checks. Now let's plug in 120. If we plug in 120, that's absolute value of 120 minus 100 is absolute value of 20, and absolute value of 20 is 20. So you see that that's why there are two answers. Now, you must have the absolute value by itself before you can take it out of the absolute value and put it to a positive and a negative. That's very important. So we're going to subtract the 8, so we get absolute value of 3x plus 2 is equal to negative 7. And it's no solution because an absolute value can never equal a negative number. This note, it is very important to check your answers when solving absolute value equations. The answer may not be an actual solution to the equation, which is called extraneous solution. Write this down in your notes. Star it, do whatever you take, but you've got to remember this. Absolute value of x is equal to 4x minus 8. We're going to take it out of the absolute value, put it to a positive 4x minus 8, and then we're going to take it out of the absolute value, and we're going to put that whole thing to a negative, so we have to enclose it in parentheses. We put the whole right side in parentheses. We're going to solve. The first thing we're going to do is distribute the negative. Solve for x. Okay, so let's go on the next panel, and I'm going to check these two solutions. So I'm going to write the original problem back up. And we solved x was equal to 6 and x was equal to negative 2/5. So I'm going to check each one. So I turn that 10 into 50 over 5. Now notice that when we plugged in negative 2/5, it did not work. That's why it's very important. So we had an extraneous solution. So in this case, this 6 was the only one that worked. So if you don't check, then you're going to give both answers and you're going to get it wrong by not checking. Don't forget, we have to get the absolute value by itself. So we have to get rid of that negative x and we have to get rid of the 2. But we're going to get rid of the negative x by adding x on both sides. Now I've got to get rid of that 2. I am multiplying 2 times that whole parentheses. So to get rid of it, I'm going to divide. And when I divide by 2, I have to divide every single term by 2. Now I'm ready to take it out of the absolute value, put it to a positive 2x minus 2, and then take it out of the absolute value and put it to the negative. Once again, you've got to put that in parentheses. I have to distribute the negative out. Don't forget, change your signs. Okay, I'm not finished. What do I have to do next? I have to check. So, I'm going to write the original problem. Check both solutions. So 3 works. Let's see if 1/3 works. I'm going to turn that 1 inside the absolute value into 3 over 3, or 1 1/3, never mind. Now I'm going to convert the 1. I took the absolute value of 1 1/3, which was a positive 1/3, and then I have to multiply it by 2. So remember, to multiply fractions, you have to turn it into an improper fraction. So I did 2 steps in one. So that does not work. So my only solution is the 3. Here's a couple problems that I did for you to help you. You try to do number 19 yourself and then turn it on and see if your answer is the same as my answer. this is the systems of equations. You learned this in Algebra 1, but it's been a while. Remember to, you want to get rid of one of the variables, so we had to multiply the second equation by -2 so your x's would go away. Now, the question was, what is y? So we didn't even need to worry about finding finding x. We just needed to find y. And you could do the rest of the assignment on your own.